Hi, welcome to another edition of Tech Talk on WGRA and WGRA.net. And as you can tell, we have graduated to video. Now, today on our program, we're going to talk about a subject, Paul, that a lot of people are probably very confused about, including me, and that is what exactly is what is the cloud? This is the buzzword that is all over the internet. Everybody is talking about cloud services. They're offering cloud services. They're suggesting you move all your stuff to the cloud. I'm not really sure what the cloud is, where it is, how safe it is. So basically, first, just what is the cloud?
Great question, Jeff. And you're right. A lot of people have a lot of ideas and curiosity about what this is. And you're right. It's a buzzword. It's just something that people have created to try to describe a particular service. And honestly, it's not very new. We've just started hearing the word over the last couple of years, but the concept has been out all the way back into the late 90s, where we had something called .NET or ASPs. And the ASP explosion, which was they were called application service providers. And if you remember the .NET explosion that occurred, implosion probably is a better way to put it, it was because there was a bubble that was created over all of this mysticism of I can move everything into the internet and I'll have all these great services and we won't need hardware any longer, and it was ahead of time. So today technology's caught up a little bit, but because .NET and ASP have bad names because of that collapse that occurred, they changed the title. And so same concept, same thing, just a different name. So the cloud is just a word that we use to describe that when we are using internet hosted services, typically in giant data centers, maybe at Google, maybe at Amazon, maybe at Microsoft, or some third-party guy like Rackspace, or even private networks like what we participate in ourselves, because we actually have cloud services that we offer to our clients too. So it's just a way of moving things out of your business, out of your location. And part of the reason this becomes really appealing is that you look at how people work with their systems now. How many people really just don't sit behind a desk any longer? They're on the move. They're taking their computer with them in the form of a laptop, or maybe even they don't have a computer, which we're finding more and more of. They just have an iPad that they're running their business off of.
Right.
And sometimes they don't even have that. Sometimes they just have a phone, a smartphone that they're using for that business needs. And there's a lot of applications that allow them to be able to run their business right off of those devices. But all of those devices require a way to connect together so that we can stay in communication. So we've got an executive on a golf course, and he needs to approve accounts payable. There are services now that allow somebody back at his office to send him some information. He gets a little text on his phone. He looks at it, says, yeah, that's good. I agree with that. He approves it right there on the fly, goes back to his golf game, working with his customers or what have you. So any service that gets moved away from your local business, your local building, someplace else is really a cloud-based service.
All right, so if you've ever tried to say something to the cloud, I've always kind of wondered where it went.
That's right.
Because if I need to find it, I'm not sure where it is. So say for instance I'm on my computer and I save a document to the cloud.
Right.
Where does it go? Where is it?
Right, so it depends on what service that you're using. So let's talk about a couple real popular ones. If you're a Mac user, you're familiar with iCloud. It's Apple's built-in cloud product that uses their data centers. I think that's actually located in North Carolina. Microsoft has OneDrive, which is part of Office 365, which a lot of people are using now. Great product, and that's located in Microsoft's data center. Google has the Google Apps product and Gmail. That's in their data centers. Amazon has their own in their data centers. So,
and some of these are huge buildings that are millions of square feet.
Yeah, massive buildings with thousands and thousands of computers all linked together, providing these services. And so
if I say a document on a Google Drive or whatever, which is their service, is it no longer on my computer anymore?
So that depends. It depends on the type of device that you're using. In some mobile devices like iOS devices or Android devices, it's very likely that that document is no longer on there because they have very limited storage capability. Your phone doesn't have a lot of room to store a lot of documents and such. So mostly it's going to depend on outside storage for that. Now, if you have a PC, a lot of times what we will see is something what is known as hybrid cloud. And so hybrid cloud is basically the files will still remain on your physical device, but they'll also be in the cloud as well from a backup and a synchronization standpoint.
Right.
Synchronization is a fancy word that basically says I got more than one device, which almost everybody does now.
Right.
2, 3. We're told that in just a few years it's going to be more like 8 devices.
Wow.
So how do we keep all of those things connected? And so if I'm working on a document here at Blautech at my office, and then I go home and I sit down at my home computer and I want to work on that same document, well, used to that'd be pretty difficult. I'd have to put in a jump drive. I'd have to copy that document. I'd have to remember to do that. I'd have to take it home. I'd have to make sure I didn't lose my jump drive in the process, because that would be really bad. I might expose some information that was real sensitive. Then I'd have to go home. I have to plug it in. I have to download the document. I have to work on it, make my changes, remember to save it back to the jump drive, bring it back to work.
Update it here.
So
it was a mess.
Yeah.
So now it just basically with most of these products, like I know that I use I use several of them, but one of the ones I do use is the OneNote, because I like it because it automatically syncs it to everything, and I never have to worry about it. And there's some other services that do that well, but my concern is I've got a document, say, and I'm sure a lot of people, this has occurred to them too. I've got a document and I go somewhere where there's not the internet.
Right.
So obviously, if there's not the internet, then there's nothing I can do to get it.
That's correct, unless you're in a hybrid cloud mode where, for instance, products like Dropbox have this option, and then Ignite, which is a product that we really, really recommend. It's a more secure version of Dropbox, designed more for enterprise level, business level usage. Dropbox more consumer product, and Ignite's more for businesses. So Ignite has that hybrid cloud mentality where everything that I have is always located on my PC as well. And so if I'm on an airplane and I decide I bring out my laptop and I'm updating a PowerPoint presentation for my peer group that like I went to for the last couple or about 2 weeks ago, I make changes, and as soon as I get back on the internet, when I'm back in the airport or I'm at the hotel or whatever, it'll immediately synchronize everything with the cloud and then back down to my other devices. So from a backup standpoint, that's awesome, but also from a collaboration standpoint, it's really cool. So I could be working on a document, somebody else can be working on that document as well, and then it's going to collaboratively put that together.
Now, how safe is this? Because my data, or say my priceless photos of my son's wedding or my kids' baby pictures, no longer on my computer. They're in the cloud somewhere. The zombie apocalypse comes and the data center is destroyed or hit by a meteor. There's really nothing I can do. I mean, so there are some things that we definitely want to keep that absolutely are irreplaceable somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that you want to definitely take in consideration is how sensitive that data is. Now, if it's really, really confidential, sensitive information, you may not want to put it in the cloud at all. Formulas for a business that is maybe has a unique product or some very sensitive financial information. Even though the data centers have tremendous security, there is no foolproof security system, and so you are putting your information someplace else, and you're just trusting that this company is following their practices. So you should do your due diligence. You should look at how they do security. You should do that investigation. Now, most of us aren't going to do that. So the reality is that if it's very sensitive, we shouldn't put it out there. We should keep it ourselves. But also, another thing that does happen is these services are companies that are for profit. And if they go out of business, they could shut down that service. And they may give you some notice, and they may not give you some notice. Now, I don't think Google's going out of service tomorrow, Amazon, or Microsoft. And I think those are relatively safe companies. But at the same point, I can't tell you that, and Google does this all the time, they may give you 30 days notice that they're going to turn a service off. They just don't like it any longer. They don't think it's in their current model. And so you've been using it, you like it, it's a cloud-based service, and suddenly they just say, oh, we're not doing that any longer. So what do you do in those cases? Well, hopefully you got the notice early enough you can get your information back out of it or recreate it someplace else. But pictures and things like that, I still believe that they need to be kept local and in the cloud.
When you say local, you mean actually on the computer or even on the computer and back? I mean, we need to have like 2 or 3 layers of some of this stuff. I mean, we need to have the cloud service on the computer, on a backup hard drive, even a hosted backup. I mean, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you can never have too many backups.
And that's the problem. A lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this or listening, I have no idea when I backed up anything. and even if I am backing up anything.
Right.
So that's one thing, the very first thing that people need to be doing is making sure
Right,
that happens.
and one of the biggest services that we provide for our clients is to make sure that their critical data is being backed up. And so when we're working with small businesses going in there, we try to identify what is their core data, what's their critical products, and help them to make sure that it gets backed up appropriately. But even home users, they need to do that too, because they've got some. You talk about like wedding photos and things like that. I mean, we don't have print copies of a lot of this stuff any longer. I mean, we don't just print things. We have it all digital. It's all on Facebook. It's all over the place. But there's just no guarantee. Facebook could come up tomorrow and say, "Oh, we don't do pictures any longer." And
Well, I've
pictures will be
noticed
gone.
on my phone here, every now and then, things that were on my phone have disappeared. And I'm not sure where they are.
Right.
I go, oh, sure, I can see this photo that I took at blah, blah, and I go to look on it, and it's gone.
Right.
Now, more than likely, it's been automatically moved off of my phone into iCloud or whatever, and if I go to iCloud, I can find it, but it scares me a little bit that sometimes things that I think are so important are just gone.
Right. Absolutely. You could have a glitch. The service could have a glitch. All of this is done with programs, and we've talked a little bit in the past about how that even one small tiny character mistake in millions of lines of code can cause crazy problems. And so it's very easy for something to go wrong. Every service is going to have a problem at some point, and there are going to be issues. And so you've got to use your due diligence. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier. You have your backups in multiple places. If it's important to you, make sure it's not just in one place. You think that product's always going to work, it's always going to be available, but it's not. There's going to be a time when it goes down, that service is unavailable, or that data gets corrupted, so have multiple
Company
backups.
sold,
Company
whatever.
sold, yeah, it could be anything.
So what cloud service would you suggest? I mean, if you had to pick one that you knew was absolutely positively reliable 5, 10, 20 years down the road, which one would you suggest?
So it's a very difficult question because
I mean, obviously Apple and Microsoft are still going to be here 20 years from now, I would think.
We would think.
Yeah.
If they make bad choices, then
knows?
perhaps not. But they would be broken apart and absorbed by somebody else. So chances are those services are relatively safe. It depends on what you're doing. So for instance, you were talking about note-taking with OneNote, which uses Microsoft's infrastructure. I think that's safe. But Evernote, which I believe is built on the Amazon cloud, is also extremely popular and very, very well known. So it depends on what service that you're using. I think what you do is you look at it more from a standpoint of how stable is this product? What have they done to make sure that their product is going to be around, and then still make sure that you've got a copy of your core information. Evernote is a great place. People use it for writing a lot of notes. Apple has a built-in product into their systems. OneNote is Microsoft's answer to that. And so you end up having a repository of a lot of really important information to you. You just need to make sure that you've got that someplace else.
And all these companies like Amazon, they themselves have backups of backups. I mean, even their data center is backed up to another data center somewhere.
Almost assuredly, most of the large companies are going to have redundant backup data centers on top of the redundant backups they have inside the system. And we use a company, nobody will know them, Artisan out of Texas. It's designed for companies like us, and it's a great data center product. And but even them, they have 2 data centers. And so in the event that the one in Texas fails, there's one in Kansas.
Right.
Our backup provider is a company by the name of Datto, and they do just a wonderful backup software solution. They have multiple data centers as well. And so it's not really a function so much of which data center to put your data into. It's more of what company is monitoring, what company is managing it, and how well are they taking your security and how well are they protecting your data.
All right, so that's what you need to know about the cloud. And of course, we can't answer every question during this 15-minute program, but you can call Blautech at 377-8825 or send Paul an email, pblau@blautech.com. He'll be glad to answer more questions about the cloud or any other technical issues you might have. You can listen to this on Monday mornings at 8:30 on the radio. Check it out on our website, wgra.net. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to Tech Talk.